All right, welcome everybody to our latest Live Motocross podcast as we talk all things AMA Supercross ahead of the finale at Salt Lake City and speak some MXGP with Jason Thomas. Obviously, firstly, thank you to everyone for listening and supporting the site. We really appreciate it. We'd also like to thank our sponsors for this episode in Fly Racing, firstly, who have excitedly jumped on board for 2025. Obviously, Fly Racing is aimed to provide customers with the very best in off-road performance products, led by the revolutionary Formula S Smart Helmet. Fly Racing continues to push innovation in safety to new levels. Never before has style and technology blended together so seamlessly as the 2025 Fly Racing lineup. For more info, check out flyracing.com or your local dealers. Also follow Fly Racing Global on social media and cheer for all their Fly Racing athletes in the SMX World Championships and in MXGP. Obviously, big shout out to Firepower as well. Go check out their batteries. Obviously, they're involved with Club MX and a host of other heavy hitters in the industry. So check out all their excellent offerings on social media and their website. So really look forward to working with them in the future as well. So on to the program now, and thanks again for joining us, JT. It's been another big week in the sport. So how was that penultimate round for you in Denver?
It was good, man. It was a really nice weekend. Weather was really cooperative. Really nice day. So yeah, I don't have anything to complain about. I mean, it's the end of a series, so everybody that's been on the road is ready for a change, I think. But man, we have an exciting finale weekend here in Salt Lake, which is where you find me at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. You're already there, ready to rumble per se. And obviously, give us your take firstly on Salt Lake City as a finale. Obviously, the destination divides opinion, and everyone sort of has a crack at where it should be. Should it be in somewhere like Vegas or California? I guess it all comes down to the schedule, the availability of stadiums, finances as well, these things. So just give us your take on it as a finale.
You know what? It's an interesting question because had we never gone to Vegas for that really extended period of time, I'm guessing it was probably 20 years of Las Vegas being the finale, something like that. I don't think there would really be any divisiveness, because I've seen the series in Orlando, I've seen it in Denver, I've seen it end in Salt Lake, I've seen it end in LA. And I think they all have their own kind of vibe and feel. Vegas is the pinnacle, but we have SMX as the finale now. So at least we brought back that dynamic a little bit. But Salt Lake it's kind of its own thing. It's springtime in the mountains. It's a very kind of reserved city. The Mormon church is based here, so as far as like after parties and the festive atmosphere that you got in Vegas, you're never going to get that here. That just is never going to exist. But I think the racing has been fine, and if you're talking about like which is a better track, I think Salt Lake's better. The Vegas track was pretty terrible for the riders. It's rock hard. There's no traction. It's really dusty. The roost coming into like what they would call Thunder Alley was painful is not even the right word. Like literally on Sunday, if we went to whatever, pool party before the banquet or whatever, a lot of us would kind of like keep our shirts on because we would be so bruised on our arms, shoulders. And if you didn't wear any sort of chest protection on your chest too, it was like nobody's embarrassed, but it would be like shocking. Like people would be like, what is wrong? Like, so a lot of us would just wear our shirts. Not that we're all fit, but like it was not a good look. So there were a lot of downsides to the racetrack in Vegas that Salt Lake doesn't present. So I guess it's kind of what's your flavor? If you want to have this big extravaganza weekend of partying and racing and gambling and all those things, which I certainly enjoyed, there's nothing that's going to beat Vegas. But if you're a family, if you're simply looking to kind of get out and you can mountain bike here and go to Park City and, this city's held the Winter Olympic Games. There's a lot to do here. So I would say it really comes down in the end to what are you looking for out of the weekend is how you're going to perceive Salt Lake being the finale.
Yeah, that's a really good take on it, mate. It's certainly an interesting topic, much like those SMX venues and any sort of scheduling adjustment that needs to be made or they do make. So it's pretty cool, mate. And obviously, before we get on to the racing, just give us a few reflections on your TV work. Obviously, your industry seating podcast, I believe you said that's pretty much the third season in the books now, 2.5. So another superb season broadcasting. You're learning, loving it, just embracing the challenge because you do a lot of different things in your life, mate. And it's sort of, you got to adjust the skill sets, and it's a testament to all you do that you keep crushing it, mate. So the fans love it. Really enjoyable seeing you out there and providing that insight that, a whole life's body of work of racing and broadcasting gives you that unique perspective. So just give us your reflections on that too.
But certainly an interesting. It's been an interesting experience, and I love it. And every time I think I kind of am starting to get comfortable and know what to expect, I get an incident like Deegan last weekend. So it certainly keeps you on your toes, and I'm always learning different scenarios and different experiences, and different things kind of happen to you, and you have to learn how to respond because I honestly haven't even gone back to watch it yet. It will be some of my homework before we go on air again on Saturday. But the chaos that was going on behind the scenes of trying to figure out if Deegan had clinched this championship was a first for me. It was crazy because we had our television production crew trying to plan interviews. The AMA director of racing is Mike Pelletier. He was about 5 feet from me off camera on the telephone with his staff trying to get the math done to make sure that the points they figured out the points. Then they were figuring out who had the most second place finishes, and they needed to be like super sure. Like they needed to like triple check and quadruple check multiple people because they definitely don't want to hand out a number one plate and be wrong. So we're waiting on that to happen. We're trying to get, are we going to commercial? Are we not? We literally interviewed Cole Davies, who got fifth place first, because we're like, okay, we can get Davies done. He doesn't affect anything. Everybody wants to hear from him anyway. Get to him. So that was really, that was the first move. And then I'm still waiting on Deegan because always we go to the winner first. Like that's always your first move is go to Deegan. We ended up going to Deegan last. Like we went fifth, second, third, fourth, first. Like it was pretty wild. And Deegan's like, yelling at us, like trying not in an angry way, but he's trying to find out if he won because he's on pins and needles, wondering if this championship is done because there's such a exhale for these guys of like, okay, even if I sprain my ankle, getting off the podium, this championship's over. It doesn't even matter. I'm done. And we're trying to get the information for him, and then the booing and then the podium interview with Deegan. Like there was just so much happening so fast. It was I learned a lot, and that's I think what I really appreciate about this is I continue to learn and I continue to expand my kind of scope of competence, and it's what I always wanted to do. I never would have imagined I would get this opportunity, and it continues to challenge me every single weekend. And like I said, every time I think I have something figured out, I get this curveball where I'm like, holy crap, I don't know what to do, and I'm like scrambling, and I'm trying to make it feel seamless. But in the moment, I can promise you that it feels anything but seamless.
Yeah, it certainly sounded like it would have been a stressful one. And there's been so many crazy moments throughout the season and throughout your time doing it, mate. And then Pro Motocross is going to deliver some absolute bangers, as will this weekend. So we look forward to seeing more of it, mate. Great analysis as always, just like on this podcast. But I guess you mentioned Deegan there. I guess that was the key talking point from the whole race weekend, the dramatic finish. He obviously got the job done, deserved title winner for sure. Obviously, the Davies pass universally agreed that it was fine. I guess in isolation, nothing wrong with it. But I guess the build up and the rest of the drama is just what, builds up, and then hence you get the fans booing and a lot of hate towards him. But I suppose it's a bit sad in a way because it does take away from the actual elite riding. The positives become negatives, and that's what people focus on, which is sad because he's just an incredible rider, isn't he, on the bike? And he's, probably not as emphatic a title champion as we expected heading in, but he's got the speed, he's got the mental strength, the whoops are good. He doesn't mind sending any big rhythm you throw at him, handle any obstacle, and he's got that more finesse to his game now. He's always striving to get better. The feet on the pegs around the corners, these little things that all help him gain speed and gain an edge. But I guess how do you judge it? You got to sort of look at both features of his personality and I guess his bike riding as two different things. But it's sad it gets a bit overlooked with the drama that comes with Deegan, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's I don't think that they really shy away from it. That's I think a part of their approach to all of it. And if you told them like, hey, if you removed a few of this and a few of that, it would be quieter, and they'd be like, wait, you think we want it to be quieter? Because I don't think they do at all. This is a part of his persona. This is going to make him this larger than life personality, which when it comes to marketing dollars, it matters, and he is, you don't get on the cover of, whatever, you don't get in like People magazine just for being able to ride well. Tell me how many times Jett's been in People magazine. Like, they are all in on this. And I don't think they want it to be like in a disrespectful way. Like, they don't want it to be like he's the big villain. They just want him to be kind of out in front of it and like not just really fast. They don't want him to be like a reserved, quiet, really fast racer that he's getting, market value or sub-market value on his deals because there's really nothing that goes along with it. They want to be the opposite of that, right? And I think their perspective is we can do that, and also this kid's going to work his ass off and be phenomenal in his performance on the bike as well. And those two things don't have to be exclusive to each other. Like, they can go together. And if they do, maybe it's not the same way that Travis Pastrana did it. Like, their personalities are very different, but the end result of gaining outside interest and gaining, interest from these companies that normally wouldn't want to be a part of the sport, that's where I think they're looking at. It's like, we can attract corporations that would never really care about this sport, but we can be, I hate to use the phrase bigger than the sport, but they can transcend what would typically be the confines of his, I guess, scope and size of what his earnings can be and what his, all those things. Brian lived through this, right? He raced, was a great racer, went into freestyle, and then it turned into this whole other thing. And he understands that dynamic. The X Games, he created his own brand, which he sold for millions of dollars. So he understands the power of going outside the norm. And I don't think that, he knows there's going to be some iffy moments that come with that. But the only way you branch out of this little box is to take some risk. And is he always going to get it right? No. And did he get checked by Monster and Yamaha for saying what he said? I think so. That's why he posted the apology, right? Like, that is not in their nature to post that apology. I don't think they wanted to do it at all. But you have to understand that, Monster and Yamaha, Monster especially, their market cap's $50 billion. These are gigantic Fortune 500 corporations that have HR departments and they have a code of ethics. And there's a lot of corporate things that marketing might be like, oh, that was hilarious. But someone somewhere in their corporate structure is like, yeah, you can't say that. Like, you can't go on national television, tell our customer base to say, do what he said, and that be attached to our name. Like, you cannot do that. Like, that is not okay. We understand that, all the engagement, all those things, but that is not the message we are trying to share as a family-oriented brand. Someone somewhere felt that way, and I think that's my interpretation. I work in a corporate environment every single day, and protecting the integrity of that corporation and the branding, that there's hundreds of millions of dollars spent to grow that brand, protect that brand, identify with, all sorts of people, families, young people, impressionable people. A lot of people thought it was hilarious. I actually thought it was pretty funny, but I certainly understand where someone's going, man, that is not the message we are trying to share with 11-year-olds. That's not it. So I think he probably got slapped on the wrist. They said, hey, walk this back, somewhere quietly, like, hey, yeah, stay edgy, but like you got to know where the limit is, right? If you'd have said, like a different phrase, but the same kind of theme, I think that would have been fine. But the phrasing is what got him in trouble here. And he'll learn from it. He won't broach that again. He'll still be himself. He'll still be outlandish. But, yeah, you just got to know what you can and can't say, I think.
Yeah, that's well said. Really great insight on I guess, the Deegan show and the machine. It just keeps gathering momentum. And like you said, he's following in the footsteps of his father in many ways with the drama and the chaos. But the messaging is calculated in there too, like we've touched on. And obviously, there was a little bit of a slip there, but they love all the booze. They relish all the attention, don't they, mate? And do you feel any sort of, disrespect from other riders? Because obviously, he doesn't well, the perception is there's not a lot of respect for, I guess, sometimes even the fans, the media, other riders too. And sometimes the way he races would show that. Obviously, he had the 2 incidents with Cole. He's had a host of other incidences. You look back, you've had RJ, Juju, Kitchen, Smith, Hunter Lawrence, and that 250 motocross, and now Davies. So there's getting a fair body of evidence. A lot of guys not really going to do him a favour out on the track in the future, which doesn't bode well for the 450 class as well. When he steps up, will he carry it on into that? But I guess just your take on some of that, mate, because it is an interesting dynamic to follow currently and then in the future.
Yeah, I would think that opinions vary a little bit. If you talk like Anderson's on record with Gypsy Tales basically saying like, yeah, but he backs it up and he's super resilient. He can overcome adversity. And I think Anderson's personality of being like, he identifies with that anyway. There's a lot of similarities about how Anderson's kind of like F everybody anyway. So there's that. And I don't think like Anderson thinks everything he does is awesome. I think there's a lot of eye rolling from a lot of the 450 guys because they know a lot of it's kind of an act and it's just a young kid kind of talking out of his rear end, like they're just like, oh God, like they've just been through that and they have kids and a career and mortgages. And I think they just roll their eyes at all that stuff because they know that when he moves up, he's going to be good, but all that talking won't matter anymore. Like you're going to be in a very, very different dynamic than what he finds himself in right now. And then it doesn't mean that he won't be able to compete or live up to anything. It's just going to be a lot different. Like racing against Chase and Jett and Tomac and Webb and take your pick, AP, Roxon, like just go down the line. I don't know where he fits into all those guys. But I do know he's going to have to face them. And you can even say, okay, just the top guys. Just say he immediately gets on the 450 and adapts to it. And he's like, holy crap, we're still going to have to deal with Jett and Chase and Tomac and Wet. Like, you're not going to just run away from those guys. I promise you, I'll go on record right now and say he's not going to just immediately leapfrog all those guys and be in his own league. That is not happening. So when you move up, the interesting thing will be, does he tone down the narrative that he has right now? Does he approach those guys in the same way? Because I've heard people I respect, friends of mine, have both sides of they've taken both sides of the argument. They're like, no, this is him. He's going to go right at them. And then I've heard another person who I respect say, no, he's going to calm down a little bit. And he'll, so I don't know. I would tend to think this is who he is. I haven't seen him really back down from any situation. I've seen him get humbled a few times. Supercross this year, he got humbled a little bit. But I think that's going to be fascinating to watch is his personality is to be really assertive and really confrontational. He thrives on that. Does he continue with that? Or does he understand that I just jumped in the deep end with a lot of grown men and I need to find my place before I start running my mouth. I don't know. I think I'm more interested in that than I am even watching the racing on the track. Honestly, I think I'm more fascinated by the lifestyle side and the human interest portion of this about how does he navigate that than I am even about what happened. Because honestly, because I think I already have a feeling of what I think's going to happen. Like I'm very confident in what I think's going to happen because I think he's going to move up 450 motocross next year. I think he'll be 250 east or west, whichever side they put Cole Davies on, you'll see Deegan on the other side. And then he'll move up for 450 motocross. And then I think he'll be pretty good. But a lot of it will depend on, is Chase healthy? Does Tomac race again? Does Jett race again? Or is Jett healthy? That will determine his results, because I don't think he's ready to beat those guys quite yet. Like, he's really good. Start there. But those guys are elite, and they're in their prime right now. Jett's going to be 22 at the time, 23. He'll be 23 at the time, or turn 23 in the midst of that series. Chase will be 26, maybe 27. So you're talking about like peak physical fitness, peak mental racecraft. You know, if you talk to any racer, like, not me, but like talk to Carmichael, talk to Stewart, talk to anybody who's been there and done it at that level, they will tell you from like 22 to 28, good luck trying to beat them in that moment, because there's this apex of your body and your mind and your experience all coming together at the same, like converging, like in a pyramid. And it's really difficult to deal with those guys in that moment. And that's what Deegan's going to be up against. So I just want to see how he handles it. And I will be all in on watching how he handles that, especially if he gets beat early on. Does he just say, it's early, I'm not supposed to win yet? And because we've seen that. We have seen him do that. Outdoors 23, early on, he was really humble. He didn't run his mouth. He didn't get too crazy. But once he got on the level, got to Washougal, got to Redbud, he started winning a little bit. Then you saw it. Then he's like, oh, I can beat these guys. Okay, now I'm going at them. So I just want to watch that whole thing unfold. I think it's just going to be incredible to watch the human interest side.
Yeah, great stuff, mate. It's going to be really intriguing to follow the trajectory on and off the track. And yeah, like you said, the timeline for 450 outdoors next year will be really cool to see. And just quickly, how do you find interviewing him every weekend pretty much, mate, or, every second weekend at least? But obviously you visited him and the family ahead of the season for a bit of a sit-down feature interview there. But he seems like he's quite erratic and a bit of a mixed bag. You never know what you're going to get when you have the interactions with him. And I guess in the heat of the moment like that, you probably take it with a grain of salt, but with the adrenaline. But there's been a few bizarre ones, and this one certainly topped the cake, didn't it?
Yeah, it's I'm not quite sure how to answer it, because it's gotten better. So I'll give you insight this weekend. I've really been working on connecting with him, not because I want to be his best friend, but I want to do the best job I can for him on the podium. I want to set him up to share exactly what he wants to share, talk about what he wants to talk about. And like the initial the interview we did, I asked him a question. He didn't even answer it. Like, he literally said nothing about what I asked him. So I was like, all right, well, that didn't go at all how I wanted to go. But then before I think it was before the championship one. It was either before the heat or it was before the heat. So the podium interview in the heat, he answered nothing about what I asked him. Nothing. You can go back and watch it, and I'm like, yeah, that's not even in the same conversational realm of what I asked you. But that's okay. That's his prerogative. He can take it wherever he wants it. But like, give me a heads up. Where do you want to go with it? And I'll set you up for it. So then it looks cohesive. It looks like, it's all as it should be. And versus you, where he looks like he didn't even hear what I said, and then he goes off at his own tangent. So there's that. But before that, we actually had a really good conversation. It's always like, I'm always like walking on eggshells with him. And it was actually good. We talked about how slippery the track was. And I was like, okay, this is progress. And then the podium interview didn't go very well at all. But yeah, it's an interesting thing. I've talked to Brian about it. I'm trying to connect with him again. And it's not I want to go to dinner with him on Friday. It's just, we're both up there. It's just he and I, and the rest of the world is watching, and they're going to clip this, and every video, every Instagram, every replay, everything is going to be about this interaction. So let's try to get it right. Like, I'm open to whatever you want me to ask you. As long as I'm not going to get in trouble for asking you, I truly don't care, because the alternative is I ask you what I think should be asked, and you go off wherever you're going to go anyway. So let's just set it up on the front end so it looks like it makes sense. But to answer your question specifically, it is, I guess, the epitome of a work in progress. We've made small gains as far as progress, like as far as our interaction. I think he understands that I'm not like out to get him, or I don't like. I think he thought I didn't like him. I was trying to like clickbait him or something, which is as far from the case as possible. Yeah, but it's also, I'm in my 40s and he's 19, right? And trying to connect those two and find common ground on television in public when adrenaline's at the maximum is not always easy either.
Yeah, it's really interesting, mate. Obviously, you've got many years ahead of interviewing him, no doubt, and it's a good idea to cultivate those relationships. It might take time, but it's a work in progress, like you said. But it'll be always interesting to follow, mate. You never know what's going to come up next. And I guess Cole Davies was the victim of that passing move that obviously led to Deegan winning the championship. But I guess you look back at the start of the season, and him and the team are definitely vindicated for fast tracking him straight into Supercross at the start of this season because the upward trajectory is just immense. And even you had an interview with him in that heat race where he wasn't happy. He put in a commanding performance and he still wasn't happy with the bike. So that sort of shows his mindset. Wants to win everything. And, he wanted to win again on the weekend and it just didn't quite work out for him. But he knew that was probably on him more than Deegan in many ways. But he's just a phenom. So many fundamentals are already there. He's arguably the best Supercross racer across both coasts in the 250 class. Little bit of putting pressure on Deegan as two alphas already in the star racing. The whoops are amazing. He just does everything in a calculated, measured, smooth manner. So just your take on another excellent weekend for Cole Davies, all things considered.
Yeah, I mean the kid has it, right? It's I think the only thing that's going to stop Cole Davies in long term is for now on a 250 is in Supercross. Let's get really specific. Is Cole Davies? His improvement curve and trajectory is unmatched. It'd be very difficult to find someone who's improved this much this fast. Because you could talk about Jett, but 2020 Jett, was leading A2 and crashed and broke his collarbone, right? So it was already there. He was 16 and he was already like racing around trying to hold Dylan Ferrandis off the last lap. So it wasn't hard to really see that coming. This was harder, even though he was winning futures and whatever. I probably said it here, but I know I've said it a bunch of other places. Go back and watch Salt Lake a year ago, and you tell me that kid is going to be the fastest 250 Supercross rider in America. Like a year later, there's just no way you can see it coming from that performance or any performance of SMX Next last year. There's just no possible way. Because I've done it. I've watched every single SMX Next race last year, and I'm like, there were no signs here. I'm watching his form, I'm watching his technique, I'm watching everything, and there's nothing that would tell you other than like he was winning. But like honestly, his performances last year would tell you he was going to be battling with like Gavin Towers and these guys. Like that's what it would tell you. That's the performance level he was on a year ago, and however he got from there to here, I'm sure some of it's the bike. I'm sure some of it's being around all those guys all the time. But man, somebody should launch some sort of study about how that happened and try to replicate it, because that is the formula, man. That kid, I don't know, it could be a lot of things. It could be, his coordination catching up. Like there's a lot of things that happen like in those formative years where you're developing, your mind catches up to your body, and all those things can happen at different times. But I'm just telling you, that is a very rare level of improvement that we're still in the midst of. Like every time I watch him, he's getting better. Is it smaller increments? Sure. But like, look at him this weekend. Like he got out front and he was like, I'm out of here, and the lappers and whatever happened at the end, that's all true. But like the first half of the race, he was just checking out. He's just like, I'm now going to run away and act like I'm, the points leader and I'm the champion of this class. And really haven't seen much different than that. The last time we saw him in Philly, he dominated. So yeah, the kid's got whatever that it factor is, and he's going to be really fun to watch from here.
Yeah, absolutely agree with all that. So much more convincing this time around, and in such a short space of time, he's made up that ground. And heading into 2026 Supercross, probably having the title favour wherever he races. But yeah, outdoors immediately. Can't wait to see how he does if he can prove some people wrong there too. And another really fast young rider who's had a pretty solid, really great glimpses, but probably not pulled it all together is Juju. Obviously on the weekend, you could see how fast he was in qualifying. The race speed was there as well. Just obviously needed to get a better start to condition his race. But very positive season overall. And we've spoken about how he probably should have been a contender, but he's just had so many crashes. Even when he was leading, you look back earlier in the season, gave up so many points, and it did come back to haunt him. Obviously, that injury halted his progress too. But overall, you look back on Juju's season, a really fine body of work again from him too, wasn't it?
Yeah, and he really showed that same form in Denver. And he really doesn't like the talk about he's not quite as good on softer dirt, but I don't really care. I feel like it's the truth, like I don't like lots of things that are the truth about myself, about other things, but they're still the truth, and this weekend was obvious proof of that. His start in the main event really cast a shadow over how well he had been riding all day. And similar to how I would invite anyone to go back and watch Cole Davies last year, I would invite anyone to watch Julian Bomeer in qualifying practice on the race day live footage from this past weekend. He was phenomenal in qualifying. I mean, that kid has so much talent, and it really shows up when when traction's at a premium and everybody else is like kind of skating around. He just looks like he's glued to the track, and that's just so hard to do. And it's a product of his environment. He grew up in Lake Havasu. He's used to riding deserty, skatey, rock hard, slippery stuff, and you develop skills. It's always that nature versus nurture. Well, he had to figure that stuff out because he rode on it all the time, and he learned how to go really fast on that stuff. And it's story as old as time. It's not a new dynamic. It just, for somebody who's not really paying attention or new to the sport or hasn't raced, you're wondering, like, why is he so good at that? Well, it's what he grew up on. Every time he went riding, he rode with really shitty traction, and he just had to figure out, okay, you get really comfortable with not having much grip. And for those who grew up with it, I grew up in the sand and I grew up riding really tacky tracks. It's hard. It's really hard for me. I had to learn, and I still wasn't like super efficient at it. I got better, but I was never going to be as good as the guys that was what they grew up riding on. And it's no different than guys. Think about, great mud riders, GP guys. Why are they so good in the mud? Well, because they grow up in Europe in the winter, and guess what they ride all the time? They ride mud, wet, sand, really adverse conditions, and they develop a skill set. And then everybody at Motocross the Nations wonder why we can't touch them in the mud. Well, I mean, you're just a product of your environment and what you practice and what you grew up riding and what you subjected yourself to 10 million times. And you become really, really good at it. It's no different than anything else, right? It's how does someone become an expert at anything? It's, doing the same thing for, 1,000 hours, 10,000 hours, whatever you view as a qualification for it. This is no different for Bomeer. And it was good to see that guy in whatever conditions be there again, because I just think it was affirmation for him to be like, yeah, I'm still him. Like, I'm still that guy. Okay, yeah, man, Seattle and Philly, not perfect for me. Or Indy. Indy's shoulder was jacked, but the other ones, just not ideal conditions for what he does well. It wasn't a train wreck. It was fine. He was in podium fight, but it wasn't where he really shines. And I think it'll just be a reminder this weekend, going into West 2026, the kid's going to be a player. He's going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, it's going to be great to see how he fares because, yeah, he's a super talented rider. Like you said, it reminds me a little bit like Fevre, obviously, on that French hardpack tracks. They're not prepped, they're rocky. He's got such great throttle control, which is just so crucial in those low traction environments. He's so comfortable, so that definitely resonated.
Yep.
But obviously, he's a great sand rider now, too. So all that hard work he's put on that surface has paid off as well. But I guess the 250 class, the showdown, the finale, it's going to be epic for those East guys, isn't it, mate? We'll move on to that. Who do you have? Do you have Hammaker, Vial, or Hampshire, mate. It's going to be pretty amazing to see how they all go, mixing in Deegan and Davies and Juju and these kind of guys, mate. Do you have anyone that comes up trumps? But it's a dream finale for the series, the fans in attendance, everyone watching. Three riders, 3 points separated, so you get to enjoy it in person, mate. It's going to be unreal, isn't it? Have you got a favourite?
Oh man, flip a coin, honestly.
Mm.
So tough, I think I would give the least likely odds to Vial. And I know that's not fair and whatever, the math, but he is the points leader. But I look at the track, I look at how much he struggled last year, and I think he's just been the slowest guy of the three for most of the series. And he did a whale of a job getting back into this title fight in Pittsburgh. It's just going to be really hard, I think, to beat both of them again. And that's fine if he proves me wrong. I truly don't care who wins. But I think it's 6-1, half dozen the other between Hampshire and Hammaker. I just think Vial is he is the least likely of the three.
Yeah, it's going to be really cool to see play out. Yeah, like you said, flip a coin. You wouldn't be surprised at any outcome at this point in that class with all that's going to be going on. It's going to be stacked, obviously. And lastly, sort of maybe a bit of 450 and MXGP chat. Start with the 450s. Obviously, Chase Sexton, amazing ride. Had the whoops dialed so fast. Really unbelievable performance, the latest one of many. Just those crashes and mistakes that he'll be lamenting, those drop points early in the season will ultimately probably see him fall short. But yeah, he said, Webb accidentally cross jumped him. That sort of made him see red, rode like a man possessed essentially after that. But Webb, like you saw, like we all saw, he was unwell. So pretty impressive overall to match it with those guys. Cooper and Mookie were coming. Obviously, you knew Justin Cooper wasn't going to do anything, but he really had a lot of pressure again. 2 weeks in a row, he pretty much had a race where the entire time was pressure. So respect to him for getting the points, and I guess he'll just be looking to cruise at home, I guess, to get the points he needs. Who knows how it'll play out this weekend, but how do you see it playing out?
Yeah, I think it'll be, he's so savvy, and I think he knows what the situation is. He'll do his thing in qualifying, try to qualify well, not take any outsized risk, get in the heat. He'll really, really lock in on getting the starts, which isn't any, it's not anything he would do otherwise, but he'll know how important it is to get out in front of people, and that way he can determine his own fate. So I think qualifying will be fine. He'll really just try to be top five somewhere. No big deal. He's not worried about trying to send a message to Chase anymore. There's none of that. Like, he doesn't care about any of that because honestly, it doesn't matter. So just get a good lap in so you get a good gate. Nail the start for the heat. Be somewhere in the top three. You don't have to do anything silly in the heat race. He's simply too good to, as long as he doesn't crash, and not be top three in the heat. And then in the main event, similar recipe. Get the start above all else. And I would venture a guess if he can get next to the box in the heat and in the main, he will, which just takes the risk about one side, right? So he'll have added room on that side. It's just less by, just simple math. He has less risk of having an incident because he has an extra 5 feet to his right or left coming off the start. So not be shocked to see him there. And then in the main event, if he can execute the start again and be top 2 or 3 or a whole shot or whatever, you'll see him, just like you said, he's on the podium, just be really situational. If Sexton's out front, see you later. I don't really care what Sexton does. That's not relevant to me. He's going to have help from Justin Cooper. As long as Justin Cooper is not getting run away from by Malcolm Stewart, like if Malcolm Stewart is out front, that's a problem for Justin Cooper because he really wants third in the championship. So you might see some urgency from him with Cooper Webb. Like, come on, man, we gotta go here. But if Malcolm's whatever in the fight with him, because he has a 6-point gap, he'll just play it as it comes, and it really, really hurts Chase Sexton that Roxon's out, Barsh is out. All these guys that could be in the fight are out. That is so, so punitive to Sexton because it gets so difficult for anyone to match a healthy Cooper Webb. He was sick last week. A healthy Cooper Webb for 21 minutes is such a difficult ask for anybody. I don't know in this field that there are. If you just, he doesn't crash, he doesn't get a last place start, his bike doesn't break. I don't know that, honestly, I don't know that there are 5 guys that can beat him for 21 minutes. He's too fit. He's too smart. He's too savvy. It is just a Herculean ask for Sexton right now. And Sexton knows it. He knows he's up against it here. But it's racing. Like, things happen. First turn crashes happen. Bikes break. It is not impossible. And these guys know it all too well. There's no way Cooper Webb is resting on his laurels or taking anything for granted, because like, anytime you take something for granted, especially in a sport like this, you will regret it in a big hurry. So I love Cooper Webb's chances. I'm certainly not handing out any trophies just yet. But, I think for Cooper Webb, he's just going to play it by ear. If he gets a start, I think he'll try to stay in second, just because it's the position where he has the least trouble. Like, Sexton, go ahead. Sexton's going to run away with this main event. I'll just tell you right now. He's going to win by 10 seconds plus. But I think Coop will try to stay in second. And if he can't, like if Malcolm's pace or Plessinger's pace or Jay Coop's pace is simply too much, or he's having to take too many chances to manage it, he'll let him go. But he's just going to be really careful. He doesn't want to get freight trained. He doesn't want to get pushed back to 6th or 7th. Then he's got to force the issue a little bit. So the worst part of this for Sexton, I think the worst part of all of this is that you've got arguably the rider with the strongest racecraft and situational awareness on the racetrack that you're asking to make the biggest mistake possible. That's the toughest part. You'd rather have anybody, and I would even include Jett in this conversation. I have the utmost respect for Jett. I think I would rather have Webb with his mental prowess in this spot than anybody else. On the start, positioning where I want to get on the gate, like, let me get away from this guy. Like, he just is thinking so many steps ahead of everybody else to mitigate risk. And to me, Saturday night is the ultimate risk mitigation exercise.
Yeah, great stuff. Really quality analysis of the situation. Obviously, we don't expect any shenanigans with Sexton doing anything. They just have too much respect for one another. And obviously, that's not a good thing to do for future reference either. But I guess from Webb's perspective, you've touched on this on another one of your podcasts this week. It must be a heavy and long week for him. So much going through his mind, all the permutations, situations. He probably just wants to fast forward to holding that title at the end of the racing on the weekend, mate. But must be a pretty rough week for him, just mentally, just going through everything, even though he's the mentality monster. It's just a lot of time, isn't it? Must be going pretty slow for him, I'd imagine.
Yeah, we were talking about this earlier in the week on, I think the review pod or Pulp MX somewhere. But it's funny, guys will try to find things to take their mind off of racing. And I mentioned on that show that Tortelli, he used to go to the movies all the time. And you're just looking for something that is an attention grabber to get your concentration off of this thing that you simply can't do anything about right now. It doesn't help you to sit there and dwell on Saturday night all week. You're just going to drive yourself insane. You're not going to sleep well because you can't do anything about it anyway. What's going to happen on Saturday is going to happen anyway. And, I think the closest I ever really came to that type of feeling, there's two sides to that. Every Saturday night, I'd be so freaking nervous. But I remember telling myself, like, win, lose, or draw, this whole race is going to be over in 3 hours. So 3 hours is nothing. Like, you're going to go out, you're going to do your best. And in 3 hours, it's going to be over anyway. So just let it happen, right? You've already done all the work. This is just basically, you've already put the work in. This is just executing what you've already, like, seen happen in your mind. And it's kind of a weird thing, is like, this has already happened. Like, all the preparation, all the work I put in, this is just basically watching the movie play on the big screen. Like, this is already like a done deal because of all the prep you did. You just got to get the hell out of the way and actually let the things that are supposed to happen now. And I think championship-wise, the closest I ever got was a German championship in end of 2009. I was really nervous. And we had a 3-week break between Munich and Dortmund in Germany, which you know all too well with your football stuff. But that's a long break. And I was leading the points. I had a big lead. And basically the only way I was not going to win the championship was if I got hurt. But I'm also like full steam ahead training for the 2010 Supercross series too. So you can't just lay up, like Had it been the last race of the year, I probably wouldn't have even ridden. I would have ridden like a couple of times, corner stuff, practice starts, try to stay a little bit sharp, and just like, I'm not going to hurt myself. I'm definitely not going to take myself out of this thing. But I couldn't. I had to be all in, like motos and really pushing to get ready for the season. So got through the holidays. It was like end of December, coming into New Year's, and I had like one more week to go. And I just flew to Vegas. I'm like, I was dating a girl at the time. I'm like, let's go to Vegas for 3 or 4 days. I need a break anyway. It's holidays. And at least I can go gamble and we can hang out and I won't be thinking about this championship. And I did. Went back over the next weekend to Germany, and I got second on the weekend. Chisholm won. I won the title. But yeah, it's the closest I've ever felt to what Webb is kind of feeling this week. But it's really hard. It's hard to escape it because every quiet moment, every time that there's not somebody engaging with you, your mind automatically drifts back to it. And it's just an all-encompassing type thing until it's over. And you'll see it. Watch for it. You can see it on Jett. You can see it every year. But when the race is over, you'll see him just like he's either going to like put his head on his handlebars, something. And that is just all of that pressure exiting him. He is just exhaling all of that built up anticipation, pressure. It just like it's like this flush. And flush is the best word I can use for it. It feels like you exercise it out of your body, and it is truly the best feeling possible. And I haven't won this championship, but I've accomplished things. And for me, this is my experience, and I'm guessing it's, if I ask them, they'd probably say it's similar. The feeling of relief from finally doing it far surpassed the joy of winning it. And that's a really strange thing to kind of wrap your head around, but the weight being lifted off your shoulders and you can just like breathe and you're like, I did it. Like I can just be myself again. And like, this is over, is a better feeling than like the excitement and the thrill of winning it. It's funny. Like, and the thrill of winning it will come, like it'll set in over the next hours and days, but that initial feeling, there's nothing like it of just being like, I have just got this weight lifted off of me.
Yeah, that's awesome, mate. Yeah, it's one of those sort of overlooked sort of topics, not probably given enough consideration. You see these guys, they're warriors, battle hardened veterans like Webb, and they're going through it. And yeah, that release and carrying that burden and pressure for so long, it'll be amazing. Whoever gets the job done, we're assuming it's Webb, obviously, and yeah, that's really cool. Sort of obviously personal experience as well, mate. It's the ways to deal with it. There's many ways to do it, but you just got to try and keep that mind a bit busy so it's not completely all on it. But yeah, lastly, quick little bit of MXGP chat. Obviously, Fevra's got the points lead and the red plate for the first time in 4 years since that epic 2021 season. Obviously, guys who were expecting will probably be on the sidelines for a bit longer. And yeah, Fevra, consistent weekend, brutal conditions. Again, they haven't had much luck in the MXGP with those muddy races. You were there in one of them in Kozar. And yeah, Fevra's just getting the consistency of the results. And Coonan Flex again, so cool in that fly kit, mate. He's doing the company proud, doing himself proud in the team. And all the momentum's on his side. He's looking like the man to beat. He's churning out the wins. The speed, amazing. And, he could be a pretty cool title fight between the veteran and the rookie there. So he's just such an exciting talent on a path to be a world champion no matter where he rides. So how exciting was that weekend of racing for you, mate?
Yeah, he's killing it, man. I definitely don't take any credit for it. I've been trying to get that team for a long time, and man, it's really working right now. And he's gonna crash some. Like, don't think I don't know that, right? Like these wins have been amazing and sweeping the weekends and all that's insane. But he's gonna have his moments too. Like he's still gonna learn a lot along the way. He's gonna have moments where he just makes a big mistake where he didn't need to push, and that's all a part of growing up. He's only 18, so I think that series got really interesting. Unfortunately, with Geiser's injury, and we'll see how quickly he can return as these guys are absorbing points very, very quickly on him. This is an extremely long championship. They'll be racing this championship all the way into when we're in SMX playoffs, and that's kind of how I think about it, how far off that is. They'll still be vying for the same points they are right now. So assuming anything right now is extremely foolish, but it's been really fun to watch. And I think if you were looking for championship battling, Geiser stepping away for a couple of weeks, I hate to see him hurt, but stepping away for a few weekends was the best thing for it, because now we have guys with renewed enthusiasm. We have emerging dynamics where when Geiser comes back, Lucas isn't going to want to just roll over. Like Lucas is going to try to be in the fight. And I'm just hoping we can get some solid weather, because this rain for these guys hasn't been ideal. I feel terrible for the teams and the mechanics, because not only do the mechanics just have to work endlessly, they're rebuilding their entire bike every single weekend, probably multiple times right now. And then the parts cost on the teams is just absolutely brutal. They are going through parts faster than, like the budgets aren't built for mud races every single weekend. So let's hope they can get some relief from that. But on an entertainment value, the racing has been great. Not so much fighting at the front all the time, but I think the variety of winning and the championship intrigue now is, I think it's peaking.
Yeah, terrific racing across the globe for sure, mate. And as we wrap this one up, any final thoughts? Looking ahead to a massive finale for Supercross, but it's really only essentially the halfway mark, really, for you, mate. You got so much planned with the Pro Motocross, the MXGP commentary, Motocross of Nations, SMX. It's just a little bit of a sort of full stop on Supercross and then into the next one, mate. But anything you're particularly looking forward to?
No, I think this is poised to be the most exciting Pro Motocross opener since, I don't know, Ricky and James were going at it, like the 05, 06 era, honestly. And it's a really bold statement, but you look at the dynamic we have now. We're going to bring in Tomac, Jett, Hunter. You say Anderson's coming back. It's not that crazy, but Prado, like you have a race winner last year in Hunter. You have the previous champion. I don't even have to give Jett an introduction. I don't have to give Tomac an introduction. And then you have the two-time defending MXGP world champion coming back. And then you have the defending Pro Motocross champion in Chase Sexton. Those four lining up with zero. I don't care who you ask. There's no way that anybody can tell you with any certainty what's going to happen. I don't care who feels confident and they're like, no, I don't care. I would tell you to your face. There's no way you can possibly know, because we haven't seen Tomac ride. I think Jett's going to be near 100%. Chase is firing on all cylinders. Like, just watch any recent weekend, and he is phenomenal at Fox Raceway. And then Prado, how the hell is anybody supposed to know what he's going to do on a new bike I would say unfamiliar confines? He's going to have time on Fox Raceway, but in a new series, new format, new everything. Like, it is the ultimate what the hell is going to happen here type weekend. And I am over the moon excited for that.
Oh, it's going to be so good, mate. There's so much to look forward to as well. And that's been another, podcast with us, mate. It's been awesome to get you on and get all your opinions. So thanks for taking the time again. Obviously, massive shout out to the fans and huge thanks to Firepower Batteries and Fly Racing for sponsoring these ones. Really appreciate it. Go check out their websites, follow them on social media, follow all the teams associated with them. And yeah, thanks again, JT. We look forward to another massive weekend of racing across the globe, and all the best, mate. Cap it off in style for sure, and we'll look forward to speaking next week.
Sounds good. Appreciate it.
No worries, mate. Have a good one.